Hello, my name is Emily Campbell, and I'm going to be spending the next several minutes talking about the agents of socialization and how they have shaped my life. So, a little background about my life: I grew up in the hills of eastern Kentucky. My dad was a coal truck driver, and my mom stayed at home. I also had one little sister. Her name is Ashley. We were a part of the lower class, and we endured the struggles of coal country. I grew up attending Brandy Cake Free Will Baptist Church with my grandparents, and my life was filled with fun times, love, sadness, neglect, mental abuse, and substance abuse. So, to begin with, we are going to talk about my family. So, family is a very important agent of socialization that can have a huge impact on our lives. Our family plays a crucial role in shaping our values, beliefs, and behaviors. And I had mentioned previously that I grew up in a two-parent household where my dad worked and my mom stayed home with my sister and myself. So some of the ways my family have influenced my life include growing up, my family was very talkative and communication is a strong suit for almost everyone in it. This has allowed me to have a strong foundation of social skills, and I am also not afraid to speak up when it needs to be done. Sometimes this is a good thing and other times a bad thing. But because of my family being this way, I believe it has helped me have the confidence to speak up when I feel like a change needs to be made or when someone is not being treated fairly. Another way my family has influenced me is I grew up in church. The church I grew up in was Brandy Cake Free Will Baptist Church, and I enjoyed going to church. And if it weren't for my papa, this would not have been a choice for me since both my parents are not religious. Having someone that allowed me to experience God influenced my beliefs and values when He introduced me to Him at a very young age. God has made a huge impact on my life, and if it weren't for my pawpaw, I would not be the mother, wife, friend, or person I am today without my relationship with God. So, growing up in this church has also shaped the way I look for a church now. This church was very old fashioned, and sometimes they use the Bible as a scare tactic instead of its true purpose. So for me, I was scared into being baptized at 10 years old. My grandfather basically told me if I were to die tomorrow and I wasn't baptized, then I was going to hell. So at 10 years old, I was terrified of that and decided to get baptized the very next Sunday. So at 28 years old now, I feel like my papa had good intentions, but because of that incident, I am so adamant on learning the word and understanding it the best that I can. One more thing, from a very young age, my dad introduced me to sports. Growing up, I played basketball, baseball, softball, and, softball became my focus. My dad worked with me every day and was very hard on me. And I remember after every single game, he would tell me everything that I did wrong and not one thing that I did good at. I honestly didn't mind him being very hard on me because it made me into the softball player I became. But I do think because of his words and actions that's the reason I did not continue my career in college. I knew my senior year that I was done with softball. So for me, um, I feel like my family was definitely not perfect. They made a lot of mistakes, just like majority of the families that I know. But I do feel like my family has ultimately shaped my life into doing the opposite of what they did. Which is not a bad thing, but it also provides me with that drive of, you know, breaking the norms of what my family did to fit my lifestyle better now. So, moving on, we're going to look at peer groups. So, this agent has made me look at Charles Cooley's idea of the looking glass self. So, our peers and friends act as mirrors, reflecting to us how they see us. Their opinions, feedback, and social interactions with us shape our self image and influence how we perceive ourselves. So, looking back at my freshman year of high school, I became friends with some not so good kids, and I started to become a person that I knew deep down I was not. When I was hanging around these kids that were clearly not making good choices, I began letting peer pressure get to me. So once I started to participate in their poor choices, their reactions to my actions made me believe I was being cool. So I started to see myself as someone that didn't care about school or making good choices. All right, so school is up next. So, school is a place where we spend a big chunk of our formative years, surrounded by peers and teachers, and where we encounter various social interactions. So, I actually switched schools a couple of times throughout my life. And even now, at 28 years old, I'm still learning the hidden curriculum of school. So, throughout my years, I not only learned academic subjects, but also important social skills and values. I developed friendships and navigated to understand social norms. Being the new girl in middle and high school shaped my understanding of the world in the sense of you're not always going to know every single person that you're around. And, as I said earlier, I grew up in a small town in eastern Kentucky. And in that small town, it was very normal to know every single person you went to school with, and your parents to know every single teacher, parent, and child. So going to a new school allowed me to realize that you will not always have that comfort in life. All right, so moving on to workplace. So I have worked since I was 16 years old. From my first job at Fazoli's to my corporate job at CVS Pharmacy, working has influenced my values of money and work ethic. And because I started working at a young age, I feel like I had kind of got a head start at understanding work life balance, teamwork, collaboration, and professional ethics such as integrity, accountability, and certain decision making. I'm also able to adapt much easier to material culture and non material culture within the workplace. All right, so up next is religion. So, religion is the most important agent to me. So, I am a Christ follower that attends Harrisburg Baptist Church. So, some of my religious beliefs include, going to church. Church is a very important part of my life, and it's a priority in my life. So I need to be around other Christ followers so that I can share my burdens with them and they can help hold me accountable. Another one is the word. So I feel like reading the word and living the word needs to go hand in hand, and I need to practice what I preach. And when it comes to school, workplace, friends, and family, I need to be an example of God through my actions. And the last one is I believe working towards being a good person, and not a perfect person. I understand that I sin every single day, and I would never believe someone is less than because of the sins they commit. And I never want to be a hypocritical Christian that drives people away from God. All right, so I love that government follows religion. So, government, growing up, I never understood government honestly. I knew my parents were Democrats and some of my family were Republicans, but I really didn't understand it. So once I became mature enough to understand government, I was so let down. The government does not care about women, the poor, minorities, or immigrants. So this has influenced the way I express my voice. So when it is election time, I do my best to make the right decision, but ultimately I know that I am a Christian. And I believe that church and state needs to stay separate. I know that God is real, and I will continue to put all my faith in Him. And I also understand that not everyone is religious, and that is their right. Therefore, government has encouraged my faith in God. All right, so lastly, we have mass media. So, in today's society, the media influences everyone's values, opinions, and beliefs. And I honestly try to stay away from the news and social media most of the time because it can have such a negative effect on my life. It will begin to cause a great deal of anxiety and distract me from my true values and beliefs. So, therefore, I really try to avoid mass media at all cost. All right, so those are the agents of socialization in my life and how they influence my beliefs, my values, and how they affect my daily life.